You know, it's kind of hard to imagine, but back in the fall of 1927, movies were, well, silent, a world of beautiful silence. And then almost overnight, everything changed. A new technology came along and basically delivered an ultimatum to the entire industry. So today, we're going to dive into that frantic, super high-stakes revolution that gave cinema its voice.
So, you ain't heard nothing yet. You've probably heard that line before, right? From Al Jolson and the Jazz Singer. But here's the thing. It wasn't just some famous first line in a movie. It was a gunshot. A shot heard around the world, really. It was basically a declaration saying, hey, the silent era, it's over. And we don't care if you're ready for it or not.
And just like that, boom. More than 15,000 theaters all across America were suddenly facing a genuine crisis. I mean, an existential one. Hollywood's message was brutally clear. Get on board with this whole talkie thing, or you're going to have to shut down for good. The pressure was unbelievable. And man, that clock was ticking.
So let's just step back for a second. Before all this chaos, what was going to the movies like? It was all about the visuals, right? You had these grand pit orchestras playing along, or maybe a single organist creating this incredible, haunting melody. That was the whole world of cinema. That was the beautiful silence that was about to be, well, completely shattered.
Okay, so how did this all go down? That one line from Al Jolson kicked off this absolutely chaotic scramble for new technology. And let's be clear, wiring for sound sounds simple, but it wasn't like just plugging in a new speaker. Oh no, this was a full-on technical invasion.
And here's where it gets messy. There wasn't just one way to do it. Nope, theater owners got caught right in the middle of a format war. Think VHS versus Betamax, but way higher stakes. On one side, you had Vitaphone, which used these gigantic 16-inch records. And on the other, you had the more modern Movietone, which actually printed the soundtrack right on the film strip. The huge problem? They were completely incompatible. So a lot of theaters had to install both incredibly expensive systems just to be able to play all the new movies.
Can you even imagine what it was like inside the projection booth? I mean, these were already tiny, hot little rooms. And suddenly, they were just crammed to the ceiling with all this new gear. You've got specialized turntables, massive amplifiers, racks of batteries, these Western electric vacuum tubes. It was a maze of machinery. The projection booth went from being a fairly simple space to this cramped, complex, and super loud engine room.
So the technology was a nightmare for sure. But honestly, that was only half the battle. For all those small-town theater owners out there, the real gut-punch crisis was the money. This whole change came with this crippling cost, a cost that people started calling the talkie tax.
So get this. Back in 1928, the cost to get just one theater wired for sound could be as much as $25,000. And I know, today that might not sound like a crazy number, but back then, for a little independent movie house, that was an absolute fortune, a life-changing amount of money.
So, just to put that in perspective, what would that 25 grand be in today's money? Well, when you do the math and adjust for almost 100 years of inflation, the sheer size of this financial hit it's just staggering.
Yep, over $450,000. Now, put yourself in their shoes. You're a small business owner, the Great Depression is literally right around the corner, and someone tells you that you need to find almost $500,000 or you're done. You're out of business. For so many people, it was just impossible.
And it gets worse. The financial pain wasn't just a one-time thing. Oh no. You had these companies, like one called ERPI, that basically had a monopoly. And they didn't just sell you the sound equipment, they leased it to you. That meant theaters were locked into these expensive, weekly service contracts. It was a constant financial drain that a lot of them just couldn't keep up with. But you know, this whole revolution, it wasn't just about money and technology. There was a huge, and I think often forgotten, human cost to all of this. The magic of those silent movies, it was made by real people. And a whole lot of them were about to find out they were, well, obsolete. So while everyone in the audience was just amazed by these new talking pictures, what was happening behind the scenes? Thousands of artists, musicians, and craftspeople were watching their jobs literally disappear overnight. So, what happened to all those people?
Okay, this fact is just wild. Before 1927, do you know who the biggest single employer of musicians was in the entire world? It was the film industry. Every little theater had a piano player or an organist or even a whole orchestra. And then canned music, sound on film came along, and that entire workforce was just wiped out.
Now, the musicians didn't go down without a fight. Of course not. The American Federation of Musicians launched this really desperate ad campaign. They were begging the public to reject what they called robot music. They tried to frame it as this epic battle for the soul of art, living, breathing musicians versus the cold, hard machinery of the talkies.
And it wasn't just the musicians who lost out. The entire world of silent film was turned upside down. Paid orchestras? Gone. Solo organists? Didn't need them anymore. And then, of course, you had the silent film stars themselves, these huge celebrities whose amazing on-screen charisma just didn't translate when you heard their voice. If the microphone didn't like how you sounded, your career was over. Just like that.
So this whole conversion, it was frantic, it was chaotic, and honestly, it was pretty brutal for a lot of people. And it left behind this permanent echo, It didn't just change the movies. It completely reshaped the entire experience of going to the movies.
And the speed at which this all happened is just breathtaking. Think about it. In 1927, The Jazz Singer comes out. By 1931, just 4 years later, the entire silent era is basically over. It's history. A whole global industry completely transformed in less time than it takes to get through high school. It's just incredible.
So when you look at the big picture, this was never just about adding dialogue. The great conversion of America's theaters, with all those giant speakers and new acoustic panels, it changed what a movie theater was. It stopped being a place you went to just watch a story. It became a temple of sound, a place where you were totally and completely immersed in the experience.
Really, the story of the talkies is this classic, dramatic story of technological disruption. It's a huge reminder that even when progress feels exciting and, inevitable, it pretty much always comes with a price tag. And it forces us to ask a question that we are still trying to answer today. When new technology completely reshapes our world, who pays the price for it? Who gets left behind?